What's up everybody, Jeff here, and the Madness of Malifaux hype is still going. One of the really cool things about how the weird universe is always expanding and growing is that there's tons of little pockets of the lore that the writers can tie into in different stories, and it makes the whole universe feel really big and interconnected. Now if you missed it, a few weeks ago I put out a video covering where we were at in the lore before the new book came out, to help get you caught up to read the new story. But this time around, I wanted to cover some of the things that get referenced in the story, but are a little more obscure or haven't been part of the main story up till this point. There are a bunch of people, places, and events that get talked about, so I'm here to give you a little bit more background about all those things. Now this video is not going to have narrative spoilers for the Madness of Malifaux story, but everything that I'm talking about in this video is referenced in the story in one way or another, so in its own way that's kind of a spoiler, so fair warning. And if there's anything that you caught in the story that I don't talk about in this video, and you think we could use a little bit more background information, then drop me a comment below and maybe I'll do a separate video about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, check out the Discord and the Patreon, follow me on all the socials. Okay, I'm done, let's get into it. When the Tyrant War kicked off, Shezul destroyed the coastal city known as Sankor Seed. The Sirens, Fae who called the city home, were soon pressed into the army of the Tyrant Meridian, alongside hordes of aquatic horrors. When the Kytherian Council became desperate, they accepted help from the Nameless, a mysterious entity whose power rivaled that of the Tyrants themselves, and who told them to craft the Tyrants' prisons out of the powers they wielded themselves. Meridian was the first Tyrant to be captured, and her prison was built using the rivers of magic, known as the Ley Lines, to keep her secure. With the arrival of the Burning Man, Meridian's legions, known as the Gibbering Hordes, have begun invading Earth, wreaking havoc everywhere they're pulled through a portal. Near the end of the Tyrant War, the Kytherian Council worked with some of the other Tyrants to trap Shirufei inside of a prison known as the Red Cage. It was sealed with relic hammers and suspended in the skies above Malifaux, where Shirufei's flames couldn't survive. Hamlin, aka the Tyrant Plague, tried to access the arcane energy locked inside the Red Cage to help him ascend, but his plan was foiled, and the unharnessed release of energy spread out across Malifaux, causing the event. The Red Cage crashing to the ground caused a huge crater in the bayou, and from inside it have come strange creatures and mechanical and undead abominations. The entrance to the Library of All Things constantly moves and can be found in different places throughout Malifaux. The library itself contains a record of all the stories of the people that live in the world. When a new culture arrives in Malifaux, their stories will slowly be incorporated into the library, and eventually they'll have their own section. This influence works both ways, as the stories that are in the library also influence and guide the culture of the people that live in Malifaux. It is said that any one piece of the library actually contains within it the entire library, and some of the stories within the library have been known to manifest themselves into physical forms. The Ten Thunders gained access to the Library of All Things, and decided that they didn't want to wait for the library to incorporate their stories, so they began tossing out some of the stories that were already there to make room for their own. The Awa were Fae who populated the deserts far to the west of Malifaux. They built great cities and specialized in advanced technology and arcane engines. They invented constructs and machines, and used elegant jewelry to give as welcoming gifts to visitors from other tribes. When the Tyrant Wars began, Shirufei was one of the most destructive of the tyrants, and he turned his anger on the Awa in particular. He melted their war machines and destroyed their cities, and the Awa's weapons had little effect in slowing or stopping the tyrant's rampage. The few Awa who survived scurried back to the desert, and when the people of Malifaux decided to stand up against the tyrants, the Awa contributed war machines and equipment to try to aid in the struggle. Their civilization once constructed marvelous cities, and the renowned research library of Kassora, and it was once considered the most beautiful route connecting all of Malifaux. After the Tyrant War, it's lost all of this prestige, and that area is now known as the Badlands. The Ada Kithe are a council of 14 shaman who are tasked with preserving the Neverborn's knowledge of magic that gets passed down from generation to generation. This knowledge used to be lost if an elder shaman died before they were able to teach all of their secrets to their subordinates. The Ada Kithe are tasked with breaking this tradition and are now the greatest repository of Neverborn magic. They stay isolated in the farthest reaches of the Knotwoods, known as the Black Eyrie, a land that is now considered sacred, and any who step foot there and are not a shaman are considered deserving of death. Many shamans make pilgrimage to the Ada Kithe, and are then judged by the Sycorax, one of the oldest and wisest of the council. The Sycorax determines if they're strong enough to possess the knowledge of the Ada Kithe, and any who are deemed unworthy are consumed by the other 13. The Sycorax only takes one drop of blood. Any who are deemed worthy are sealed with a pact, and their flesh is marked with runes that are so old that most Neverborn can't understand them. The secrets of the council are then at their disposal, but all shamans use these secrets with the utmost care, as the arcane magic often asks more of the shaman than they can readily offer. The Ada Kithe are the ones who bound Lilith to her human form during the time of the first breach opening to allow her to fight alongside the humans to hold off the undead hordes. They're also the ones who helped Lilith bring peace among the Neverborn after she took her mother's throne instead of her sister Nekima. Between the time of the two breach openings, the guild spread its power and influence around the globe, leveraging its dominance of the soulstone trade to bend the nations of the world to its will. But their dominance couldn't last forever, and after signs of weakness started showing, the King's Empire was one of the first nations to distance itself from the guild. Having spent a great deal of time and effort improving its industrial and economic power, as well as working on its relationship with its colonies, the Empire noticed that the guild was spread thin, focusing much of its attention and resources in Malifaux, and once they finally had enough soulstones, they declared independence from the guild in 1904. This prompts the guild to move its headquarters from London to Vienna, and sets a precedent for other nations to start opposing guild dominance. All of this, of course, angers the powerful organization, but with their hands full in other places, the most they do in retaliation is impose some trade embargoes on the King's Empire. By leveraging their ties to the colonies they've maintained since before the Black Powder Wars, as well as their connection to the Arcanists, which supplied black market soulstones, the Empire was able to flourish without the guild, and tensions continued to rise, almost leading to war. But then, the Burning Man arrived. After wreaking havoc elsewhere, the Burning Man eventually made its way to London, and heralded an invasion from the gibbering hordes, aquatic creatures from the oceans of Malifaux. They laid siege to the city in what would become known as the Battle of London, flooding the streets with both water and creatures, and killing civilians and soldiers alike. Months after the battle, the Empire was still trying to root out more of the creatures that were living in the dark corners. Between the invading gibbering hordes and the cultists that began cropping up all around the world and worshipping the Burning Man, the guild and the King's Empire, as well as the other nations of the world, had way too much on their plates to continue bickering with each other. Later, when the Burning Man appeared in Malifaux, bringing with it a wave of chaos and destruction, Governor-General Marlowe put out a call Earthside to send assistance. The King's Empire were one of the first to respond. Damien Ravencroft acquired a reputation among the Arcanists for having a knack for solving mysteries and puzzles related to the arcane. He also had a reputation for wanting to spread information about magic so that all people would have access to the knowledge. In his quest to gain access to more and more powerful magic, he hatched a plan and hid away his identity inside of a magical puzzle box. He then allowed himself to be caught by Sonia Crid, who took him to the Yellow Crypt, where his magical abilities and personality were burned away, and he was turned into a witchling stalker. While working for the guild, he and his witchling handler, Bellaventine Thorpe, went on several missions, one of which saw them capture a mage by the name of Marco Bonatti. After finding the puzzle box, he was able to open it, recovering his identity and his memories, but also retaining his memories of his time in the Yellow Crypt, where he was able to learn Sonia Crid's spells, which were so powerful and secret that they were only known by Crid herself. He then escaped from the guild enclave, along with his handler, and since then we haven't heard from him for years. The Kimon are demon-like entities that live in a realm called the Beyond. Some of them try to take human hosts to allow themselves to cross over into our realm, often with nefarious intentions. One, by the name of Amanjaku, manipulated Asami in order to help a more powerful Kimon to cross over as well. They were defeated with the help of Yanlo and Chiaki, but then Amanjaku was suddenly possessed by a much more powerful Kimon who called himself Lingshutsi, and who told them that he and his kind were planning an invasion of their homeland. Yanlo and Asami immediately started reaching out to their contacts to try to prepare to fight off the demons. English Ivan is a man of many mysteries. It's hard to pin down his allegiance, but he's been known to work for the Union, as well as the Explorer Society, and he sometimes tells people that he works for Lucius Matheson. He was present at the battle when Mei Fang faced off against the Governor-General as he was touring the contract towns in preparation for his ascension to tyranthood. The two faced off and manifested their avatars, causing a catastrophe that almost claimed the life of both combatants. Ivan recovered Mei Fang's unconscious body and watched over her as she healed. While she was sleeping, she would often speak, and Ivan spent the time writing down what she said and translating it with a Chinese-English dictionary. When she woke up, she quickly warmed to the man, and the two grew close over the several weeks that it took for her to recover. When they parted ways, they promised to see each other again, and Ivan walked off, having successfully made his first steps towards infiltrating the Ten Thunders. So that's a whole bunch of background information that I think would be useful when you're reading Madness of Malifaux. Hopefully it can help you to make sense of some of the more subtle things that are going on during the story, and pick up on some of the hints that they're dropping about where the story might be going. If there's any characters that you find yourself interested in, then check out my lore guide playlist, because there should be a video in there for every master who gets mentioned in the book. And don't forget to let me know if there's any other topics you'd like to see me do a video on, so you can get a little bit more background information on them. The universe is getting pretty expansive, so it's easy to miss a lot of the little things if you're not really keeping up with it. While you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the Discord and the Patreon, where you can become one of the extremely cool kids like the Steam-Powered Scoundrels and Dogmatize. Huge shout out to them, and thanks for watching.